Hey YouTube, welcome back to LadyGi. My name is Zenab and I am a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Academy owner here in Calgary, Canada. It's January 2023 and I thought I would use this time to start the year off by sharing stories of other women that train Brazilian Jiu Jitsu all over the world. So to start off, I have Yasemin, who trains out of Florida in the United States. She started jiu-jitsu almost a year ago. It'll be 1 year in February for her. And this is her story.
Good morning.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Good morning.
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Alrighty.
If all things go wrong, they will. That's
Oh,
why I was in with a different. I apologize.
yeah, no, I figured. No problem at all. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. It's nice to meet you virtually. It's too bad we can't do this in person. So yeah, first question. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm of Turkish heritage, and I grew up in Philly. For those who are going to be watching and kind of know the locations in the United States, I grew up in Philly, but I'm in Florida now.
Oh,
I
cool.
work in technology as a product manager.
Okay.
I'm overseeing like a video streaming platform specifically for golf content. So I am in like the
Interesting. I've
sports
never heard of
industry,
that
kind
before.
of. Yeah, like golf video for golfers, golf video content for golfers. So it's a streaming platform that I oversee. Um, I will say I have been pretty much a square my entire life. And I think like the biggest risks that I've taken have been around my career. They've been around like moving. I thought about it. I've lived in 5 states in the last 15 years, and I've probably moved between like 15 to 20 times in those 15 years. So I do see looking back that I was like so much a square. And I feel like I'm rounding out the corners a bit. I picked up jiu-jitsu in February, and
Okay.
for those who follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I own a motorcycle, which is very different and new for me, and a huge risk. If you talk about risk, both jiu-jitsu and motorcycles are perceived to be risky things. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. I joke with my friends that I'm having a bit of a midlife crisis.
I think that's really awesome. I was thinking about, I was like, it would be super cool to ride a motorcycle. And my kids were like, yeah, that'd be so cool to see you on a motorcycle. I'm like, I don't think so.
You should do it. You
We'll
got
see.
to.
We'll see. The thing, okay,
That'll
so
be
you're in
perfect.
Florida. I'm in Canada. So we only have summer for like, if it's a good year, we'll have summer for about like 4 or 5 months. And then it's winter for the whole rest of the year. And it's like
I gotta tell you,
so
I don't really
unpredictable.
ride too much in the summers because it's so hot down here. Because
Mhm.
you have to wear the jacket, the helmet, the jabs. It's a little too
Yeah,
much sometimes. So,
yeah.
but I
Nice, nice. So where in Florida are you?
I'm like right outside of Orlando.
Oh,
So very close to Disney, Universal
nice.
Studios, usually the two things that people know in the area.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a dream. It's like it's cold up here. I'm in Calgary, so it's like we're close to the mountains, but it's like you get unpredictable weather. You don't know if it's going to be cold today or if it's going to be snowy or sunny or what. So Florida sounds like a dream. Okay, so do you actually play golf or you're just, doing the filming stuff?
I took one golf class in college. I was a business major, and someone told me that would be smart to do as a business major, taking it as an elective. I think I got like a B plus or something. So it is not my favorite sport. But I manage a website and different apps, so I'm not really needing to have to play golf.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. No, that sounds awesome. I've never heard of that before, so that's actually really cool. So with your jujitsu training, so you said you started in February. What made you want to start initially? What got you in, like, were you into martial arts when you were younger? Was it just something out of the blue, or was it something that you saw on TV, or how did that start?
So I was born in the 80s. I'm dating myself a little bit, I
Yes,
know.
80s.
Yeah. So, we grew up with like Karate Kid and all these different movies that really highlighted like martial arts. And then obviously like you had Jackie Chan and all these like really famous celebrities who put out a lot of fighting type movies. And so I think growing up, a lot of us in the United States or in Canada or in the West, we dreamed, and even probably in other countries as well, we dreamed about like doing karate or doing some kind of martial arts, and that just never happened for a lot of us. I know for me, I wanted it, and my parents were like, no, we're not doing that. As an adult, I look back at my Facebook feed and it popped up one day that I was asking people, hey, anyone have any experience with Taekwondo or kickboxing? I'm looking to pick something up. So I did kickboxing for like 6 months, about, I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago at this point. It didn't stick clearly because it was a 6-month journey. But earlier this year, I kind of set a target for the year that was specific to work on my own mental health, a spiritual journey, the physical side of my well-being. And I thought, okay, I know that I'm still wearing a mask in February of 2022. I'm not seeing a lot of people. I work remote. I don't have a lot of human interaction outside of my little close group of friends. What can I do that will give me that human interaction, put me in like a happy mood, but also can kind of like kill two birds with one stone and get me to a place where I'm also doing some maybe workouts. My sister was doing mixed martial arts for about a year and a half at that point, along with her 3 little children. And so I'm like, my sister's doing that. My nephews are doing that. Maybe that's something I should consider. And I had a very good friend here in the Orlando area who was doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I had only known the name. I knew absolutely nothing about what that meant. And so one day I said, okay, finally, I need to pick something up. Let me go to the closest mixed martial arts place. I walk in, and it is the most intimidating sight I have ever, like whatever you imagine about martial arts. It was a bunch of men with tattoos and shaved, different style haircuts and like these earrings and everything. I'm like, I don't think I'm in the right place. And I stood there and I waited for someone to come up to me and like welcome me or say, hey, can we help you? No one did. And so I knew that there was another location I wanted to check out. I made my way there. In fact, I'm sending my sister a voice message saying, this is my experience, and I know the second is not going to be great. I already know it. But I walked in, totally different experience. This is Gracie Baja School.
Okay.
And it was an adult class going on, but a couple of children that were from the previous class, I believe, their parents were probably inside, they're doing their homework. The kid saw me, he looked up, he's maybe like 8-9 years old at this point, and he said, are you new? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, let me call the instructor. I'm like, no, I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to bother anyone. And he said, no, this is normal. So the instructor came over, talked to me, and then I sat and I observed the class. I came back the next day or 2 days later, observed another class. I saw a woman, like my height, 5'3" or something, or shorter, take on this big, humongous guy that's like 6 foot and heavy. And I'm like, I want to do that. And that's basically the beginning of my story.
That is awesome. That's so cool. So when you first started, was there ever a point in time where you were like, yeah, maybe this isn't for me? Or were you really enjoying the process in your first 3 months? Because that's usually when people are like kind of deciding in it for the long haul. Is this something that I really want to do? How are the first 3 months for you?
Yeah. I happen to be the kind of person, if I start something, if I intend to start, I'm going to try to finish it. So I never really had the intention of like feeling it out, seeing how it goes. But I will say, yes, in the first few months, I felt like I was failing repeatedly because it's something absolutely new. I look at it as like learning a new language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially something like Arabic. If you've never seen Arabic or Chinese and you've only written in the letters of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's going to look very foreign and you're not going to get it on day one. It's going to take practice. There will be some time that needs to pass before you start to feel like, hey, I think I'm getting the hang of this. And so I would say in the beginning, I was kind of leaving very excited and happy for sure, but like, darn, like, am I ever gonna be able to do one move? And I agree. I think it probably did take about a good 3 months before I gained that confidence and felt, okay, practice. When I practice, I will see progress.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of also what motivated me to keep going.
Yeah. Cause that's usually what I tell people that are new is that, your first 3 months, it's like learning language. You're just learning how to walk. You're just learning the words. You're just learning the moves. You're just learning where to grip and all that stuff. And then once you pass that block of, okay, now I know what shrimping is, and now I know what this is, and now I know where to put my hands and what to do on the bottom, what to do from the top. Now you're actually going to start to like form words and sentences and stuff. And so yeah, no, that's really awesome to hear. So what is your training regimen like right now? How often do you train? Do you do cross training? Do you train for tournaments? What is that like?
No and no. I don't compete.
Okay.
And in terms of training, so unfortunately, I'm in classes 2 days a week. It started out as four, but there's a reason for that. If I could go 5 days, 6 days a week, I would. The challenge, as you probably already very much are aware more than I am, that's why you've probably set up these interviews. There aren't a lot of women in jiu-jitsu. I
Mm-hmm.
happen to, for my own personal needs, I personally choose not to roll with men, which means that I can't just go into any class that I want. I am
Right.
limited to the days of the week and the times when I know that women will be there. So even though there are, Gracie Baja has the fundamentals class, so that's like the most common class that they have. And
Right.
if you're advanced or basic, it doesn't matter. You're in the fundamentals class. You're picking up the good stuff. And so even though they have 6 a.m. classes, they have 12 noon classes, I skip those. I don't go because I've been told you can't guarantee a female trainer in there, like partner. And so I go Monday and Tuesday nights. It used to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays until they changed the schedule. And that third day no longer has significant amount of women. Now, in terms of like weight training, running, and all that stuff, there was a time in the beginning I was doing that. I fell off the bandwagon. I do want to get back on it. I was doing Pilates. I want to ensure that my body is flexible so I don't injure myself. Number one. Number two, it
Right.
feels better.
Yeah.
All the way around, you feel more you feel less pain when you've been physically training outside of BJJ. That's what I've learned, at least from my own experience, that when I was doing Pilates consistently every week and I had my own workout routine in my living room, just like cardio, and a little bit of, strength, like building muscle with my own body weight kind of stuff in my house.
Mhm.
Um, I definitely am an advocate of doing those kinds of things. Though I know it's not absolutely necessary. So anyway, all of that to say, I don't necessarily have like a fixed routine right now
Okay.
to supplement my BJJ.
Yeah. I mean, everyone always says the only way to get better at jujitsu is to do more jujitsu, right? So I personally find that cardio is like when my cardio is down, if I can't really run because I have a busted knee, but just keeping up with some kind of cardio for me makes me gas out less. So if I'm not doing that, I feel super exhausted and I start gassing out really quickly. So that's something I always like to ask people, like how do you feel when you're training and how are you supplementing? But no, I think 2 days a week is good. What I usually tell people too is that if you can only make it once a week, consistently try to make it once a week. Like don't, miss 2 weeks here and then come in the third week. Like that is what really messes you up. So like I commend you for sticking to that 2 days a week as difficult as it is. And I think across the board, everyone always has the same complaint is there's just not enough women in jiu-jitsu. I think collectively there's more women now starting to, like, you see more women at tournaments. I know when I first started jiu-jitsu, I think I was there was like maybe 3 other women in the tournament setting, and now there's so many of us, and now there's so many different weight classes. When I first started, there was hardly any, and some days, even though we were, my husband started our school, and so we had a few ladies training with us. Some days there were no ladies, and I had to wait to train with my husband. And then slowly I was like, you know what? I'm sitting on the side for days. There's no ladies here. Like, my jujitsu is gonna suck, and I'm just here doing nothing. So I slowly started training with guys, and what I found years later, and this is more recent to this year now, I actually prefer training with women, because with women you can always go 110%. Like, guys will still hold back because, there's
They can
biology
hurt you.
involved. They can hurt you. Yeah, for sure. And what people don't understand is, like, when there's biology, right, a guy is definitely going to be a lot stronger than you, for sure. And they
Mhm.
will either hold back. So you don't really know if you got that submission. Did I really get that sweep, or did he let me sweep him? Did I really armbar him or choke him out? Was that real? Like, am I getting better, or is he just giving that to me? Or he'll do the opposite and try to commit murder, right? So you never really know if your jujitsu is going anywhere. So now I prefer to train with women, and I love going to the women's class, and it's just so much, I feel, beneficial, because you're both not holding back. Like, you will go 110%, and you actually feel like, okay, I got that submission. Okay, I really suck. I need to work on this. So I feel like there's so many benefits to that. But going back to what you said, yeah, I feel that there's a lot of women lacking in jujitsu. In terms of numbers, there's just not enough, and it kind of it sucks for women like us who, for women that don't feel comfortable training with guys. So what do you think is holding people back from, women in particular? What do you think is holding them back, whether they're Muslim or they're not? What do you think in general holds them back from doing something like jujitsu?
I think it's the same thing that holds women back from doing something like riding a motorcycle. It's the same thing that holds women back from doing anything that is considered, again, like risky or dangerous. Um, oh gosh, I'm gonna try not to go down a, like philosophical, political, or whatever road, but it's hard to avoid the obvious, setup in society where there's constant discussion around gender roles and women growing up to, like, I'm sure that whether my mom intended to or not, tried to protect me a lot from getting hurt. I'm one of 6 children, the first 4 being girls and the last 2 being boys. I don't know many families that can say they have 6 kids in the family and no one ever broke a bone. I don't know any big families like that. We were very sheltered. We were very protected. I think boys probably hurt themselves more growing up than girls do. I think there's an element of protection there. And so, when you hear constantly, that's dangerous, don't do it. Oh, you're being told that because you're a woman. And so what happens? You don't see women in the field. And if you don't see women, how do you know that's appropriate for you? How do you know that you're capable of doing it? How do you know that you're not going to enjoy it? There's a lot that is already just set up by society to prevent us from going. I never would have really, I think growing up, that the Karate Kids and all those different movies that I mentioned earlier, we all envisioned ourselves doing karate, right? Or taekwondo or some really cool like martial art. But when it comes to becoming an adult, if you have the financial means to do it and you have the time and availability to do it, you don't really see it as a realistic option, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it never comes to be a real idea. And for me, it was the lack of women. It was my own sister and a female friend that even made it possible for me to consider it for myself. If I didn't have those 2 people in my life, I don't think any martial art would have been an option, to be honest. So I think that's the main culprit, in my personal opinion.
Do you think that has something to do culturally, or do you feel like in general women are just, told to stay protected and be protected and to always have your guard up in some way? Do you think that's more of a cultural, religious type of thing, or is it just in general?
Well, I live in America, right? And I can tell you in an American cultural context, that's the case. I'm of Turkish heritage. In the Turkish context, that's the case. I can't speak outside of these two. Maybe I can speak in terms of the Muslim community because I'm part of that community as well.
Mm.
I can't separate culture and just like a general, because I think I can't speak for every single country in the world, right? But I think we all know that in general, women all over the world will probably have the same challenge. One thing I'm going to slip in, I think you might be following them as well on Instagram, Muslim_Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
Ever since I followed them, that's my source for female. I'm not even joking. Like that is my source for female martial arts or BJJ trainers. That's where I go to see like other people like me. And I feel like maybe Qatar or some countries in the Middle East is common. So that's why I like hesitate to say that it's a universal problem around women. But I can tell you in the American context and in the Turkish context, it is the same problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually feel the same way because somebody actually asked me this, like, is there a lot of Muslim women that train jujitsu? And I'm like, I can only speak for like North America. I can tell you there's not a whole lot of us, but other countries like, and I did mention Qatar, I'm like, the Middle East, jujitsu is huge. Like that is like, I don't like saying Mecca, but it's like the Mecca of jujitsu. Like that's where, like IBJJF is in the Middle East. Like it's all, everything kind of stems from there. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm sure there's a lot more women that train out there, but I don't see it in Canada anyways.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of, in terms of like Muslim women, if we're talking about them, there's not a whole lot of us that train. And for me personally, I didn't grow up uh, around sports a whole lot. If I did play sports, it had to be with women. It had to be in the masjid, right? It had to be with people in the community, but it was never like my parents didn't put us in sports or anything like that because I mean, I come from a family of 5 kids. So, it can get a little bit expensive when you have immigrant parents, it's just a different dynamic. So, we didn't have that ability and I never saw myself playing sports. So when I see women now, it's like you're so drawn to it because you're like, wow, oh my goodness, like there's more of us. This is awesome. Like, you just kind of find that connection, that common ground, and it's really, really cool to see. Did you have any pushback from family when you started jujitsu? Were they like, why would you want to do this? Or were they like, didn't really care? Or were there any pushbacks from that?
No, I did. If I was going to get pushed back, I would have gotten on my motorcycle, and I didn't even get that. I think that's a bigger no than jiu-jitsu is. Again, like I mentioned, my sister was already doing it with her boys, and I think my family happens to be, I'm very grateful to say, like very open-minded about those kinds of things. They recognize that it's a sport. I think also there's a religious justification to it as well, right? That in terms of like, I'm sorry I'm taking it there, but I can't help that point.
It's part of us. It's okay.
Yeah, that wrestling and grappling is said to be a sunnah, right? So
Yeah.
because of that, I think there's they just weren't closed off to it. I do wonder if my mom gets worried sometimes because my sister like dislocates her toe constantly in MMA. And so maybe that might trigger some things as a mother for my mom, where she's worried we'll break an arm and a leg and she just doesn't say it. I have no idea. But never did neither one of us, I think, get the pushback. But also we never got like a good for you from our family, from our friends, for sure. It was just a thing that we're doing in their eyes, I think.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have days where you're like, I don't want to go to class today. How do you stay motivated?
Um, that's actually a very good question. Um, one thing I already mentioned, the Instagram handle. You're actually part of that for me as
Oh,
well. Like, you don't know it, but I think I might have wrote to you an email about it, with the hijabs that I winded up purchasing, because I was looking for guidance from like other Muslim women doing this, and I had nowhere to turn. And so when I found you doing a video, and I'm like, she has a school. Wait a minute, she's really doing this. She's committed. That was incredibly inspiring for me. Finding the Muslim Jiu Jitsu handle on Instagram kind of made me see where I could be in the future, because these are women in niqab covering their
yeah,
entire face and
yeah,
dressed completely different than maybe you and I do in class, in a more of a traditional Islamic manner. And when you see them and they're like winning awards and like competitions and stuff, or they're just competing in general, that is a huge motivation. I think one last thing that I'll, and then like I won't chatter too much about this, but I think it's important to, for myself and anyone else that wants to get into it, um, if you're looking to find that motivation, to remember that what I said earlier about practice, right? That like it's not just going to happen overnight. And so I did have to remind myself that, hey, you are in a process here of learning something new, and the more you do it, the more you're going to see what the end result looks like. And just remember, keeping to like remind myself of that point was critical to stay motivated. Otherwise, what am I looking at in the future? I am looking at, oh, failure. I missed that. Like, this girl tapped me out again. I tried to move and it didn't work. Or I insisted on the same move over and over again when I should have just tried something different. I mean, if I talk to myself this way, all I'm doing is forgetting the fact that this is practice in this moment. And I'm learning that that move didn't work, and next time something else will work.
yeah.
So for me, that was very helpful to just remind myself of like the realities of what it means to be in a sport in general.
Yeah, I really like that point. And I think we always forget, like we're always looking at other people and why am I not there yet? I've been doing it for so long and like I keep coming to class, but it's that you have to remind yourself and you have to be that champion for yourself, is that I'm learning and it's okay to make mistakes and make all the mistakes here. And for someone who, we have ladies that like to compete. Usually our instructor always says, make all the mistakes here, but don't make them in competition. Like, this is what class time is for. Make all the mistakes here. It's fine. Like, stop being so hard on yourself. How do you train in Ramadan, or do you take the whole month off, or do you like, how does that work for you?
I do take the month off. I think if I was competing and if I had all of that training and the discipline that I had like earlier on, and I can totally bring back, maybe it might be a little different for me. And I'm comfortable with that fact. I think for some people maybe that might be like a turn off. It might be something that pushes them away from continuing because they took a month break, and now it means like it's like an all or none situation. Whereas
Right, right,
I
right.
find for myself, you know what, I've chosen to use that month as a time of rest for myself,
Right.
and also a spiritual focus. Though there's nothing wrong with, continuing training, there's a spiritual element to that as well, I totally believe.
Yeah.
um it's just I personally am not fit and healthy enough, I think, to ensure that I won't pass out when I'm like,
Yeah.
not eating and drinking.
Yeah, it is tough. I'm not gonna lie. I do train in Ramadan and it's like I would say the last 20 minutes of class are pretty tough when you're not drinking water. And I'm somebody who I do intermittent fasting quite a bit, so I'm used to not eating, but the water that's the tough part when you're like, okay, it's time to roll. All right, I got this, but I usually can't make it to the like complete end of class rolling with no water. And sometimes I do. Usually by the end of the month, you kind of get the hang of it and your body gets used to it. But in the beginning, yeah, it is tough. So, like I tell people, if
Yep.
you need to take a break, take a break. But still try to come to class and just watch and like still immerse yourself in it so you feel like you're still getting something out of it. Um, So what positions do you enjoy training? What is your game like? Are you a guard player? Are you more top person? Are you gi, no gi? What does that look like for you?
I am gi. I have not done the no gi classes again because of the gender dynamics. There's
Right.
not enough women in the class. Also, like attire for me personally, I lean. I'm not completely conservative with my attire, but I lean towards that direction. So it's just I don't know.
I know. I feel
So I
it.
yeah. I know you understand what I'm saying. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the gi is how I go, and I do prefer guard. Like I think because I'm early in my journey, and I had Ramadan off. I traveled quite a bit, which also I see like now I don't want to travel because I don't want to miss jujitsu. That's how bad I love jujitsu. I'd rather not travel the world basically. But that kind of means that you're sometimes stuck in the same types of positions because you haven't been able to practice all the others. So I find myself trying to like fall on my back, bring the opponent on top of me, and then essentially forced myself to try to like escape.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I my go-to is like close guard if I can.
Have you been experimenting with any other guards, or are there certain guards that you're like, yeah, I really want to learn how to do that?
No, I do experiment, especially like when I'm in a full mount. I find myself constantly wanting to do like the cross collar choke, and I can't think of anything outside of the cross collar choke.
I think that's a mount
um
problem. I feel like every time a lot of people complain about this, and I'm the same way. It's like you get to mount and you're like, oh crap, like what do I do from here?
oh,
Like, it feels so
yeah.
foreign sometimes when you get to mount. I know I'm like that too.
Yeah. I mean, I in my head, I'm this awesome BJJ like champion, like I'm
Yeah, yeah.
I'm moving like the greatest fighters in the world. But in reality, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not even gonna dare try to do it because I can't remember
Oh, you
what I
should
need to do.
always try. You should always try. I always tell just do it. Like sometimes you just have to, and I need this constant reminder too, is like we overthink positions so much. We're like, no, we're gonna make a mistake and I'm gonna lose the position. But it's just like, just do. And once you start doing it, you really like it's like a roadblock. And you just once you get past that roadblock, you actually realize that, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. I made like one little mistake and I can go back and always fix it. And um, but I know for me at white belt, that was like a huge thing. I was like, you get so comfortable with close guard or X chokes, or certain positions are just so comfortable and familiar that you kind of like forget. And sometimes you just get tunnel vision. That's the thing about jiu-jitsu is you get tunnel vision because you're focusing on that one thing only. But once I feel like that's just the progression in jiu-jitsu. Like it's never linear. It's always like up and down constantly. So yeah.
Can I tell you, um, I think this is important to mention. One of the reasons why I'm afraid to try something is more that I'm afraid to hurt the person if I do it wrong. And I think when I first started, I was I made a video about this, but I was very afraid of hurting myself. Now I'm not afraid of hurting myself at all, but I still certainly I'm afraid of hurting the other person because now I know that if I do it wrong, I might hurt the person. If I do it right, then it will give them an opportunity to figure out what to do next, or whatever the case may be. But I think I still have some ways to go in terms of telling myself that they're going to tap if it doesn't feel right. Like
Yeah.
just try. You're
Yeah.
not killing them. You're not going to break their neck.
Yeah.
You might hit them in the nose by mistake. You might poke their eye. You might hit their chin, but they're gonna be okay. It's happened to you, and you were fine. Like just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
talking myself into letting it be. I think that's what I need to do. But I wanted to point that out, that there is that fear of hurting the other person for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
don't
I
know if
see
you
that.
felt that.
Not for me. I feel like I've been training for so long that I'm just like, meh, whatever. Like it happens. And
Did you feel it in
you
the
know,
beginning?
what's that?
Did you feel it in the beginning ever?
In the
afraid to
beginning,
hurt
yes.
someone?
Very like in the beginning when I was training in my basement, it was like I was so scared of even just getting like a collar grip because I'm like tugging. So I just thought it was rude to like tug and pull someone, or push somebody and just like sitting on top of them. I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Like it was just like a constant like sorry. Like we were just saying sorry to each other all the time. And then I realized I'm like, this is just part of the game. Like this is just you get so used to being bumped and pushed. And actually just the other day I was training with one of my training partners and she kept kneeing me in the head. I got kneed in the face, kneed in the head, and I was just like it's not it just doesn't phase me anymore. It's just part of it. But it
Yep.
took me a while to get there and understand, and it wasn't until I started training other women and I started teaching other women, because now I had to reassure them. So I'm like, it's okay, like she's gonna be fine, she can handle it, you just do your thing, like don't worry about it. But I think everyone has that fear when they first start because they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna hurt the other person, or I don't want to. You're not really thinking about like, oh my god, I'm going to hurt myself. It's really, I'm going to hurt the other person. But I feel like that's just part of the process. Like it's just another box you'll tick that, once you're over it, then you're over it.
Yep.
um yeah, so in terms of sports hijabs, I know we briefly you mentioned this. um what do you want to see in a sports hijab for women in terms of jujitsu and grappling? Because there's so many sports hijabs out there right now. And I have this, it's a common complaint for me is that they're not made for grapplers. They're great for other sports, but I feel like for grappling, you don't need extra fabric. There shouldn't be too much loose fabric going on in the back. What would you personally like to see? Like, what does the ideal sports hijab look like for you?
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. I have some ideas in my head. With my sister, we've talked about it because I got her onto the hijab brand that you had mentioned in your video on YouTube. And it did feel like the best option compared to some others that we've tried. But still, it's tuggable. Like you're
Yeah.
right. When you're in a close contact sport, what you have on your head should not budge. The way your shirt and your pants don't move, like your hijab should not move either. So I think the number one has to be the ability for it to just be snug, which is also challenging because you like women who don't wear hijab have the problem of their hair being pulled out, right? But women with hijab also have a similar problem because you have friction constantly up against your hair. So you want to make sure that it's also not damaging you in the long run, right? But the tightness of the hijab, I think, is critical. Like you said, not loose, but I mean tight fitting so that it's not easily pullable. I think in general, the world of hijabs has a business problem. Now, I come from I'm a product manager, so I think you have a problem. What's the solution? The biggest problem in the world of hijabs is the concept of one size fits all. That's a
Yes.
complete. It's
Yeah.
it's different when it's a shirt. A one size fits all. Okay, on one person it might be a little tighter, a little bit looser on another, and it's a style. But with a hijab, you can't do that, especially in a close contact sport. So the flexibility somehow of like adjusting or something would be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that too. So I was actually talking to some other ladies about this, some other ladies that are larger in size, and the common complaint is that this hijabs that are available in regular stores, like now Sport Check carries Adidas, they carry Nike, now we have Lululemon. They're all one size fits all, and it doesn't account for different head shapes, sizes, the amount of hair somebody has.
Sports.
Like it's just so it needs to be more like a bra. I feel like it's like
Right.
there needs
Mhm.
to be more sizes. And just again, same, I have the same common complaint is even the hijab that I wear, which is not available anymore, and I'm so sad.
Yeah, me
But
too.
it does slip. Like there are, I mean, it doesn't slip. It's just if you're in a tight spot, like you're trying to escape like a guillotine or something, or you're coming out from under. There are times where it has come back a little bit. It actually happened to me in a tournament. It just came all the way back, and I was like, it totally messes up your concentration too, because you're like, like you're trying to
Yes.
pull it off, and like you're just like completely mortified and embarrassed, and then you completely just lose your concentration. So yeah, that is a huge issue. I am inshallah coming out with a sports hijab, so this is good to know for me. And also for, I think it's important for women to know that like nothing is ever going to be perfect, but there are options out there that can still make it work, and that hijab should not be an obstacle. And I think a lot of women, just going back to our original conversation, is why do you think a lot of women aren't training? I think a lot of women feel they feel really, I know for the ones that I've spoken to anyway, they feel so self-conscious about the hijab just being the first thing that you see when you walk into a room. And am I going to look weird in it? It's still something that's not normalized as much. So how do you think that should be combated for women that do wear hijab? Like, what is your advice to women that are feeling very self-conscious, because hijab is something very personal to each person. It means something very different to each person. The way we wear it is very different. Everyone expresses themselves differently. But I personally know women that won't even ride a bike because they're like, well, I wear a hijab, it's going to look weird. And I'm like, riding a bike, like, it's not going to look weird. It's fine. Like, you're just riding a bike. So what is your advice to women that feel that hijab is the thing that's stopping them?
That's such a hard it's such hard advice to give, because what you're articulating is the problem that all women have, right? That we're all self-conscious about
Yeah.
our figures, about, like how smooth our skin is, whether we have pimples or whatever, like the shape of our eyebrows, the shape of our lips, like our height, right? We're so conscious in general. And so whatever advice can be given to a woman who's self-conscious about her hijab is just, I feel like, general advice of like you would give to women, which is really, it sucks, I hate to say this, but like we all have to work on our self-esteem, and we have to, I feel that we have to work on kind of being able to say to ourselves that I don't care what other people think. And that is a very hard thing to do as a human being. I mean, that's a human experience, whether you're male or female. We all, to different varying degrees, have this feeling of what is someone else going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? And when that happens, that is, from how I understand it, that is the root problem of this discussion. And there's nothing I can do for someone. There's nothing you can do for someone. And just telling someone simply, well, have more self-esteem, is not that easy, right? But really, that's what it comes down to, being able to say, I don't care what people think. And part of not caring what people think is understanding that they don't think the things you think they think. Right? Like, we're all saying, well, they're going to think this and they're going to think that. And actually, that's not true. They're not thinking those things. So that's a really hard one. I don't think there's, except for me to give this commentary, I don't think I have any other advice. It's just like building your own self-esteem, and like telling yourself that people are not as critical and evil or judgmental as we think that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know for me anyways, it took me a really long time to build my self-esteem, and jiu-jitsu had a huge hand in that. It wasn't until I started jiu-jitsu and I started seeing that everyone has the same struggles. We're all struggling with escaping bottom, half guard. We're all struggling with the same things. We're all we and for women anyways, because I started only training with women, we all had the same concerns, we all had the same struggles, we all had the same insecurities. But you kind of learn from that, and you have to see that for yourself. Like, somebody can tell you until they're blue in the face that like you can do this, and they can be your cheerleader, but until you see that for yourself, it's not really going to change anything. All right. So I'm going to end off with some rapid fire questions. We're nearing, I think we're about 40-ish minutes in. Yeah, almost an hour. So yeah, let's end off with some rapid fire questions. Just pull it up here. Okay. Are you a guard puller or passer?
Uh, I feel like I'm a passer.
You're a passer. Awesome. Wrist locks, are they dirty or are they legit?
I'm sorry, they're legit.
I digress. Gi or no gi? I think you already answered this one.
Yeah, gi.
Work.
I'll tell you, I would do not gi if it was an option. That would have been my answer, but for me right now, it's not an option.
Okay. Money or happiness?
For sure, happiness.
All right. Work or play?
Hmm. Told you I was a square. I'm becoming more play.
Play. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Oh, oh. Summer or winter?
Sorry, say that again.
Summer or winter?
I'm in Florida. Winter.
Are you serious? Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Why winter?
I
Oh,
wish I
how is
was
it
around.
get so hot? That's fair. I
It
can.
is too hot. Yeah, it's just too hot.
Salty or sweet?
Salty.
Morning or evening?
Morning.
Do you watch shows one episode at a time or do you binge the whole season?
I'm a total binger.
Do you shower at night or in the morning?
Uh, uh it depends, but mostly morning.
Would you rather fly or have super strength?
Um, I actually have to sit and think for this one. I would say super strength.
Are you more of an introvert or extrovert?
I think you can tell it's an extrovert for sure.
Night out or night in?
It's been night in for so long, but if it wasn't COVID, probably night out.
Okay. Okay. Do you kill bugs or do you kill bugs when you find them inside or do you take them outside?
It depends on the kind of bug.
You guys probably get really exotic bugs out there. I've heard stories of like really weird looking creatures. You
Yeah,
guys
I mean, if I have,
you guys have those
sorry, go ahead.
lizards on the road, don't you? Like those big gigantic man-sized lizards. I don't know what they're
Oh, I have not seen. I've seen because so I lived in South Florida for a period of time, and I did see a very big. I don't know if it's a lizard or whatever it was, in a tree once. Iguana. I have no idea. But we have geckos, so they're the small ones, and there are a lot of them everywhere. And I've had probably a total of maybe like 5 or 6 in this house alone that I've had to catch. I do not kill those, even though they're like this small. There are people who do kill them. I do not. They dry out, and you basically like 30 days later you can find them slowly moving, very very dry, and you cup them, take them outside, and then once they hit water, they like a sponge, they just like expand.
Oh my gosh.
So,
This is why I live
yeah.
in a cold climate because I can't handle stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you a learner by watching or learn by doing?
I'm a learner by doing.
Fresh food or dried food?
Fresh.
Do you cannonball into the pool or do you dip a toe?
I don't swim. I took classes earlier this year to try to learn, so the toe is the one that would be me.
Okay. Social time or alone time?
Social, but turning to alone as I get older.
Funny how that happens, eh? Street smart or book smart? Which do you
Street
prefer?
smart.
Street smart. Flying or driving?
Driving my motorcycle?
If you're traveling.
Driving.
Okay.
Driving.
Homemade presents or expensive presents? Which do you prefer?
Uh, Probably homemade.
Okay.
Has more
Uh,
meaning.
mental strength or physical strength?
Mental.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I had. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Any advice you want to give to people that are watching, or anything else that you wanted to add in terms of jiu-jitsu, or how it made you feel, or how it benefited your life, or anything at all?
I do want to say in terms of how it benefited my life, because I think that it's important for people to hear, um, especially in this day and age where we're talking a lot about mental health, right? We're talking about improving our mood, going from negative to positive in our attitude, feeling valued, important, confident, productive. I mean, a whole list of like really wonderful things that we want in our lives. And I think for me, um, where I was earlier this year and where I am today in such a short period of time, I feel like two different people. Not to say that BJJ is the only thing that contributed to that. Obviously, like I made efforts. There's a lot of things that I'm doing in my life to put me onto that path. But I will say that if you're looking for purpose, if you're looking for a hobby, if you're looking for like just something to do, or if you are maybe you're in a state like I was where you want to feel like you're achieving something, that you want to tackle like an obstacle and prove to yourself that you can do something big, or if it's just like I said, as simple as just wanting to be in a good mood, I would tell everyone, despite the gender, despite your religion, consider jiu-jitsu. I think it's a very underrated, not underrated, but it's not mentioned as much as all the other martial arts, at least because, I think from a family perspective, like I said, karate and taekwondo is probably the two that everyone knows. Um, I would say consider BJJ because you get a sense of community when you're in that environment. All of the feel good hormones are at your fingertips immediately. You have an increase in endorphins and oxytocin. There's a lot of like, not necessarily skin to skin contact, but body to body contact at least. And so you're leaving, like I leave classes very happy. I mean, I'm leaving with a smile on my face. There's never a time that I've left the class and felt like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like that just, I have not even seen one person like that. Everyone leaves with a smile on their face. We become like family. It's a great environment. We talked a little bit about, the confidence and self-esteem that you build essentially, right? There's a level of confidence that you gain through, I think you may have mentioned that earlier, but there is a confidence that you gain through doing BJJ, and it does build your self-esteem. But two other things, for me as a Muslim woman, I'm 1000% breaking stereotypes. I'm showing non-Muslims in my class that Muslim women can or are allowed to do these kinds of things, so to speak, right? Like maybe they think that we are square and we're locked up in a home and all we do is cook and clean, or whatever their stereotypes are. I don't know, but breaking stereotypes. And the very last thing is, it is such a cool thing to do. Like, you are a cool person if you're doing BJJ.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave all of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Yasemin. I think a lot of people are going to be inspired by you and your story and how you started, and all the benefits that come with it. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because there's just not enough of us out there, and I feel like you have to kind of be a world champion or be on the world stage in order for people to really hear who you are and what your story is and what your relationship with jiu-jitsu is. And I just felt that, for someone who started jiu-jitsu and being the only Muslim woman, only woman in hijab, in the jiu-jitsu setting in my city was really daunting for me. And I'm completely understand that a lot of other women feel the exact same way. Like, it's the first thing that people see when they walk into a room. They see your hijab first. Unfortunately, it's just kind of how it is, and we deal with it. But that should not be the thing that stops us. And I wanted people to see that, you know, aside from wearing hijab, like, we have the exact same concerns, and, you know, our relationship with jiu-jitsu and how we train and everything is no different than anybody else. And it's totally doable for people that look like us. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Inshallah, hopefully this will be up in a couple weeks. I'll let you know when it goes live. And I will leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. This is important stuff.
Absolutely. All right. You take care. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year. And inshallah, we will chat again soon.
Thank you. Same. Take care.
Okay, Zenab.
So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. I hope you enjoyed that discussion between Yasemin and I, and hopefully you took something home from that discussion. And if you've been on the fence about training jiu-jitsu, hopefully this inspired you a little bit. If you are somebody who has been training jiu-jitsu for over 10 months, please get in touch with me. I would love to share your story. So there are two ways to get in touch with me. You can either send me a DM on Instagram. My handle is right here, LadyZ Official, or you can send me an email at info@ladygijujitsu.com. These interviews and these discussions are going to continue for the rest of the year. I have so many incredible women that will be sharing their story bi-weekly every Tuesday, so make sure that you subscribe and make sure you follow me on Instagram so you don't miss a beat. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and you'll catch me in the next video.